talk to you today about, I'm going to talk to you about money, and it's a dirty word because you don't often like talking about money. I'm going to talk to you about markets, tea, fruit, vegetables, news, chocolate, and eventually pencils, and get back to where Tracy mentioned pencils this morning. Question, how many times does the average 4-year-old laugh in a day?
About 300.
Lots. About 300. It is in actual fact 300 times a day. Question, how many times does the average adult laugh in a day?
Some of them know.
It's about 15. So what the hell happened between the age of 4 and the age of 100? It's true, isn't it?
Indoctrination.
Fact, absolutely.
And it is a subject that I often say to people who say, so what happens at the age of 4? We're all happy. We don't necessarily know where we're going in life, but we kind of laugh a lot. This is a great quote that I found a few weeks ago. You can fail at what you don't want to do. You can take a chance at what you do want to do and what you love. And who do you think said it? You'd think someone like Teddy Roosevelt or Abraham Lincoln or somebody, wouldn't you?
Richard Branson?
Could have been.
Winnie the Pooh?
Winnie the Pooh said so many great things, didn't he? Winnie the Pooh rocks.
Spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all that will ever be is what's happening here, and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I'm saying, I'm the proof that you can ask the universe for it. My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
The thing is that Tracy mentioned this morning, other people have mentioned this whole thing about ethical. So what does ethical mean? It means many things, and sometimes when you talk about having an ethical company, people say, well, what does that actually mean? Any ideas?
What you feel in your soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to be detrimental to anybody else.
To do things that are good, to care, absolutely. I don't know if you know, but I am a brand consultant, and many of the companies that I deal with, one of the things I always say to them is that how do you bring happiness into the brands that you've got? This is a research study done a few months ago by Marketing Week, and basically it talked about the happiest brands in the UK. And it's of no surprise that the happiest brands are in here in terms of Cadbury's and Andrex, because they're very emotional. There's lots of tangible things, there's puppies, there's chocolate, who doesn't love puppies and chocolate? And also things like Google, because it helps us do great things, so that's all cool too. But if you look at the least unhappy brands, what do you see in there?
Cool.
Political parties, banks, institutions, which, I don't know, are they happy? Not necessarily. Sorry? Third one.
First one, what's the first
Liberal
one?
Democrat. poor old Nick Clegg, he never has a good press, does he really? But there are airlines, there are things in there that go against this whole thing around happiness, aren't there? But the thing is that when we talk about happy brands, and this is some of the criteria they put against it, it's about being playful, it's about being happy, it's about being trustworthy, it's about being generous and being optimistic. Now, in terms of your businesses, really think about those 5 core elements. How can you be playful? You've got to be careful in terms of therapy and counselling and stuff, because you can't be too playful. And also about being happy. How can we bring this happiness back? If a 4-year-old can laugh at nearly 300 times a day, and we only get to do it 15, how can we raise that to 20, if not more? And about trustworthy. Trust is an incredibly important part to what we do in terms of business. Heather mentioned it this morning. If you're going to like somebody, you're going to engage in it, you want to trust them, don't you? Because you're going to transact in some way, whether that's through money or through barter system. So trust is really important. But also about generosity. How many of us step outside and actually do stuff with Princess Trust or Big Ideas World? How many keynote speeches or talks do you do at schools? To actually say to people that to be an entrepreneur and to be enterprising is actually a really good thing to do. To teach them in the ways of entrepreneurialism, to running your own business and believing in themselves too. And also this whole thing about optimism. Optimism is really important, because if you don't feel optimistic, you're not going to project that. And as you mentioned, Renee, about your product, the way that you package them, I love that. You should bring it into the front of your pack. And the thing is, it is about doing things with love and care. And people do get that eventually from what you're doing. So again, this longer thing is longer term by reinforcing consumers or customers' kind of personal identity, making them feel better about the world. The thing is that all the businesses in this room, we want people to feel better about what we're doing. So how do you communicate that? Now I'm going to take you through some things and examples. So who really does do ethical? Or is it about doing what is right? And I think it's more about doing what is right than necessarily giving us a badge and saying it's an ethical business. Because I find, I could say I'm an ethical business, but I find that hard to justify. Because in terms of sustainability and green forest and all that kind of stuff, or maybe I'm not that ethical, but actually what I want to do is I want to do right. I want to do right by people and by humanity. So let's look at some areas. Let's look at money, big dirty word. Let's just see if there's anyone out there doing kind of good stuff.
Isn't it strange the stock market seems to be the most important way we measure our well-being? Rising stocks equal happiness, falling stocks equal despair. However, profit and loss is about a lot more than just money. And that's why we took over the most important ticker tape in the world, the Nasdaq, in New York. Triodos Bank may not be among the biggest banks in the world, but we are one of the most sustainable. We invest in people and businesses that contribute to a better world. For example, we invest in fair trade, in organic farming, in solar energy and culture. We invest in reducing poverty and greed, and improving education and healthcare. You can now invest in a sustainable future by becoming a co-owner of our bank. Follow your heart, use your head. Triodos Bank.
The great thing I like about Triodos Bank is the fact that they do within their mission, our mission is to make money work for positive social, environmental, cultural change. They don't hide the fact that they have to be profitable. And the thing is that that's what we need to think. In terms of being an ethical business or a business that does right, we still need to make money. If we don't, we can't pay the bills, we can't send our kids to school, we can't buy the things that we want to buy and consume. So again, we have to think about that. The thing that I love about this bank is that in all of their communication, they keep saying about making a positive impact, doing something for the better and for the good. And even when they start talking, for instance, in their business principles, which I really like, they set out in black and white what it is they're trying to achieve. So again, with you as a business, really think about that. Think about how do I teach people, tell people about the benefits of what I'm trying to achieve. And again, this thing here is about being accountable to anyone for anything that we do. Absolutely right. And that's why I like their examples. I love the fact that they've used creativity in an interesting and engaging way. They've shown the type of programs that they get involved in throughout the United Kingdom, and the fact that they're different, they're 100% transparent. So everything they do you can find, you can look into, you can read a report on what they're doing. Again, they use interesting graphics. Design's a very important and creative element to what they do. They even show how they're different within the community. They know they need to make money, so through investment, through shareholders, through loans and everything else. But they're actually saying to us, this is what we're going to use them on. Yes, there's profit involved here, there is a transaction. But I love the fact that you can look at the energy programs that they're doing throughout the United Kingdom and further afield. But it's great. And also, they use lovely pieces of animation too.
Imagine two banks. Both employ helpful people who deal with your questions, and both are financially sound. At each bank, you can save regularly, earn interest, and of course manage your account online. Only one bank does it differently. This bank only invests in things which are good for both people and the planet. Things like renewable energy, organic farming, and ecological development. This bank invests in businesses that want to make a healthy profit and want to make a positive difference to society. This bank finances those businesses only with money from their depositors and investors. So the money those people save is invested back into the society they live in. It's actually very simple. Both savers and investors help to build a better, more sustainable world. That one bank is us. Follow your heart, use your head. Triodos Bank.
What do you think?
Good strapline.
It's amazing, isn't it? So it doesn't have to go on those big words like ethical and everything else. It's just saying that they're going to do the right thing. They may make mistakes, of course, but they're still going to do the right thing, which is great. And if you take a bank like Lehman Brothers, after 150 years went bust. Why? Because of all the bad things that they were doing. Okay, so we've done money, let's look at some markets. I was very lucky years ago to be in Cape Town, and I was down in Cape Town, and there's an area called Woodstock, which used to be a really very badly deprived area. And there were basically two guys that decided to start a market. So they started this thing called Neighbour Goods Market, which is actually really lovely. It was just a Saturday market, and they decided to invite local people to basically to trade and to share their kind of produce. And that's everything from kind of knitted products or woolen products to food and fruit. What's lovely is they completely transformed an entire neighbourhood, just literally by setting up a weekly market selling local produce. I mean, they feature over 100 specialty traders. I've been to it, it's absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant. And when you walk around there, and this is a picture of it, it's a complete buzz. Everybody's there for the well-being of other people. It's wonderful. It really is. And there's nothing about race there. There's mixed, there's everything. There's Chinese people there, there's Africans, there's every nation that you could possibly think of in the world. And the only reason that they're there is literally to exchange and to barter and to trade. They sell wonderful, wonderful produce. And some of these people literally are pure sole traders, where they literally just have fruit and veg. And what I love about it is that they literally do, it's a meeting point to buy locally sourced produce, but it's an education point where people can actually learn what it means to buy direct from source. So it didn't start off with this big idea of saying, well, let's change the world by teaching people about locally sourced and organic food. They said, well, how are we going to transform a neighbourhood? How are we going to make it into something that people want to belong to? They've now opened one up in Johannesburg, but Johannesburg's a pretty tough area. But they're really, really successful, and they have a huge amount of seasonal calendar and events and live music. And what they're doing is they're taking from the ground up, they're educating people and helping people. They're showing children that actually you can buy into an economy that isn't just based on kind of greed, which is really nice. So let's turn to tea. The Tea Box Company. Haven't heard of them? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Phil, and I love a good cup of tea. I grew up in Germany, where my mom used to have a tea shop. That's where I found my love for tea. But when I moved over to the UK, I really struggled to find a good cup of tea. Tea bags are good, but not great. That's why we started the Tea Box Company. Once we've sourced the tea from all around the world, it gets shipped to our headquarters in Liverpool.
Well,
this is our office. This is where we package and process all of our orders. When we created this product, we wanted the packaging to be enjoyed just as much as the tea that was in it. That's why we commissioned an artist from New Jersey. For inspiration, we gave her all of our teas. That way she could taste, smell, and even feel them. And that gave her the inspiration for each of the pieces of art that she created to go on our packaging.
As you can see, there's a long journey behind one of these tubes. We are on a mission to get the world drinking loose-leaf tea, one cup at a time. And that's where we need your help to help us complete our mission, even though if it's just one cup at a time.
And the thing is, it's quite a naive video, isn't it? But it's actually quite nice. And what I really like about their website is they do this thing called Back a Brew, which is every time you buy one of their packets, basically they donate a cup of tea to people who don't have kind of tea and stuff. So even though they know that they need to make money, they're actually doing something very simply that we can all sort of do too. Okay, so how do we take news? Positive news, which is great, and I love this thing about the search page. It's the world's first solution-focused newspaper reporting on people and initiatives that are creating a just, sustainable and fulfilling world. Isn't it amazing that there is a news company out there that's trying to do it? I know they publish this paper, I think, 4 times a year, is that about right? But the great thing is they're trying to cover the positive stories. They're trying to bring those things into the news that are of benefit to people. I mean, how many times you watch the news at 10, you leave the news at 10, you think, Jesus, that's the world we live in. You pick up a newspaper. I used to really read the Times religiously every morning at 6 o'clock. I stopped about 2 months ago. because I realised that the only thing that was going into my brain was rubbish. I don't want to read about corporate greed, the amount of people being killed in wherever. I don't. So I've stopped reading that, literally, and I now read books which are full of positive stuff. And this is what I love about positive news. You know, they go into some pretty good social issues around using psychology in a positive way. And again, I would say for you people who are in therapy, again, read about how they report on the news and the things that they're telling people. It's really interesting. So let's look at fruit and veg.
Start something I really cared about. There are more than 1 billion people in our world going hungry. Yet in the UK, we waste 60 million tonnes of food every year. 1 in 5 children in London live in workless households. These facts got me thinking. There must be something that I could do with all this unnecessary excess, and there must be some way of providing jobs and getting people back onto the employment ladder. The solution was simple. To make first-class products from some of our excess, some of the fruit and veg that would otherwise go to waste. I called it Rubies in the Rubble, and it started with chutney. With the help of the local community and old family recipes, we started making chutney in local kitchens and selling them on weekend markets. And it grew from there. It turns out, we're pretty darn good at making chutney. Now we're at Borough Market, high-end delis, we've been written up about in the media, and the City of London is helping us to set up our very own kitchen. At this one market, there's 250 tonnes wasted each week. That's a lot of chutney and a lot of jobs to be created. And we're not going to stop there. There's so many products to make. To you, this might just be a jar of chutney, but to me, it's a solution. These products are powerful examples of the innate beauty in so much of what our society discards, and a way of empowering people in the most impoverished areas of our city. It doesn't just taste good, it is good.
But again, you can have that idea, can't you, to say, well, okay, I want to make chutneys and jams, but I want to kind of fulfil this excess food problem that we've got, so what do? Turn it into a positive. And I think you can find it in virtually everything. I mean, their website's fantastic, it's very simple, but it's wonderful. I've not tasted their product yet, but I'm sure I will do. In the future. Is it? There you go, again. And could you do it with chocolate? And everyone loves chocolate, so... this is the Essentials for Life company, or the Elements for Life company. And the nice thing is what they do, so see no reason why a business can't be successful and work in harmony with people and the planet. It's our mission to help show that to be the case. And again, what's lovely about that is they state the intention of what they want to do. Yes, they're a business, yes, they need to trade, yes, they need to make profit. But what they're trying to do is actually do some good at the same time. They produce some wonderful chocolate making kits. So you can buy those for your kids. For yourselves. Sorry? There you go. Did you have them here today? But again, it's just wonderful, isn't it, that whole thing. And what was really interesting about their website is at the bottom of the website, it literally said powered by solar. I was thinking, what the hell does it mean, powered by solar? You click on that, and it literally is. It's a solar-powered website. So not only are they selling kind of ethical stuff or kind of for good stuff, they're actually using electricity in a positive way as well. So again, think about that in your communication. Are there other things that you can add to your brand? A pencil. What could we do with a pencil? I know Tracy asked us this question earlier. Anyone got an idea? Pencil?
Pick your nose.
Pick your nose, okay. Anyone else?
So it could be an idea. You can write a thank you letter instead of sending an email.
Actually, this is something when we go to school, we don't have to ask for a pencil, do we? Sometimes if you've blunted yours and you have to ask for it to be sharpened, but it's the thing that we naturally assume that every single person on the planet has. Yeah. Okay. This is a story I came across. How many people are part of LinkedIn? If you're not, please do, and I know I've mentioned this to you before. The thing is that LinkedIn is an incredibly powerful business tool. Not only because it connects us to other people in business, but also it runs some amazing articles. And there was this article written, I don't know, it must have been 3 or 4 months ago, And there was this guy called Adam Braun, you might not have heard of him, but basically he came up with these things called 30 mantras to change your life. And I kind of read this article and it really resonated with me. And I read down the mantras and I kind of thought, okay, what is it? And then at the end of that, he mentioned there was a book called Pencils of Promise. Or Promise of a Pencil. So I kind of thought, you know what, this guy sounds really interesting. So I bought the book. Literally, this was fresh off I got one of the first copies and I read it. And if you ever want a life-changing moment, reading one book, that is it. I'll tell you a bit more. The key facts around children education, I'm staggered. 75 million kids lack education or access to education. 45% of them in the least developed countries do not attend school. A single year of primary school increases the wages of a child by at least 5 to 15%. This last one here, a child is 40% more likely to live past the age of 5 if the mother has had a basic education. It's quite amazing, isn't it? And we kind of think that we take education for granted, but kids don't like it. I'm quite staggered. So,
Adam Braun started his career on Wall Street, but decided to invest in a better world. His nonprofit group, Pencils of Promise, has built nearly 200 schools in developing parts of Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Forbes named him a 30 under 30 star of education. His new book is called The Promise of a Pencil, How an Ordinary Person Can Create Extraordinary Change. It's published by Scribner, that's an imprint of Simon & Schuster, which, by the way, as you know, is a division of CBS. Adam Braun, we welcome you.
Thank you.
So most people don't think of a pencil as a life-changing thing, but it really was for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of on a fast track to a Wall Street career, and while I was in college, I was backpacking through the developing world, and I found this young boy begging on the street, and I said, if you could have anything in the world, what would you want? And I thought he'd say a house or a car or a boat, and his answer was a pencil. And I gave him my pencil, he just lit up, and I realized that we have millions of children around the world without access to any form of quality education, and that I ultimately wanted to do something about it.
What's interesting about that story, though, is a lot of people have said, that's nice, give him a pencil and felt good.
They've gone on about their way.
But what does it make you take it further?
Sure, so I was naturally an introvert, and I found that if I walked around with pens and pencils, I could actually open up conversations with kids, and ultimately their mothers and fathers, and I would ask the parents, what do you want most in the world? And what I saw was the highest levels of affluence and at the lowest levels of poverty, parents wanted the same thing, which was better opportunity for their children, and education could unlock that. And so after a bunch of backpacking and travel, and then eventually a great job at Bain & Company, I just got the itch and put $25 into a bank account trying to build one school to honor my 80-year-old grandmother on her birthday, and that turned into now more than 200 schools globally and more than 20,000
That's the
students.
bit where I'm, so how do you go from that $25 in that one school to hundreds of schools? I mean, that's extraordinary.
So truthfully, that was the reason that I wrote the book, was that I had so many people, especially young people, coming to me saying, I'm not famous, I don't have wealth, how did you start so small and build something so big? And I realized that I had a lot of lessons that I wish somebody told me when I was a 20-year-old. And so the truth is, the book is framed around 30 mantras, these quick, powerful phrases.
Surround yourself with those who make you better.
Yep.
If your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. Never take no from someone who can't say yes. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, the one that I was going to share with you was big dreams, they start with small and reasonable acts.
Right.
And we think that, you have to have this huge pile of money sitting somewhere. But again, I started with $25, and the one never take no from someone who can't say yes. That just comes down to the fact that there's always some decision maker in a company who has the authority to unlock whatever you want most. And you have to find that person.
Find the person who can say yes.
Yeah. And then the other one that I just believe in more than anything is you speak the language of the person that you want to become. Not your present self, but you speak in the aspirational future self that you hope to unlock. And when you speak in that future tense, the world starts to kind of manifest around whatever you envision.
But you had a lot of trials and tribulations, Adam, along the way. You were held up at one point by gunpoint, you've been beaten up, you've been robbed. Even your grandmother said to you, why do you go to these places where people have so little when you have such nice things? You were making a lot of money, on very successful. You called your parents to complain, I don't feel purpose or passion. Your dad said, grow up. So what is it that happened to you?
I found purpose. That's truthfully the biggest thing. I think it's really a big part of the millennial generation that a lot of people, they look at us and they have this sense of entitlement, and that's because millennials are driven by meaning and purpose more than anything else. And truthfully, we're the first generation that was raised being told you could be anything you want to be, and we believed it. And so it takes a lot of hard work.
Well, the name Braun will be very recognizable to people in the entertainment industry because Scooter Braun, I didn't really know his first name was Scott, manages Justin Bieber.
Right.
And I think, when you think about Justin Bieber, you don't think philanthropist, but he's been very generous to Pencils of Promise. But what can you tell us about Justin Bieber? Do you ever call Scooter and go, what the hell is going on?
I mean, Justin and I have been close since he was 13. I've known him since a lot of this stuff happened, and the truth is, while lately some of the public decisions that he's made hasn't been wonderful, privately he's still the same great kid that I've always known. And he's always been a really generous and big-hearted philanthropist, and I hope a lot of that shines through.
Yeah. Well, it does in the book.
My pleasure.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The Promise of a Pencil is on sale now.
So do you reckon $25 and a pencil, that was it? And the thing is, I mean, what I love about this mission is every child should have access to quality education. They create schools, programs, communities around the common goal of education for all. It's amazing. And he did it with just a pencil, that was it. I mean, he was on a sabbatical, he did go for a kind of a world trip on semesters abroad, or a float, I think it's called. And he actually nearly lost his life on that particular voyage. A 60-foot wave actually did hit the ship. And he realised then that his time was not up, that he had something to do, that he had a greater calling. So he decided to start Pencils of Promise. And that's the charity that's featured today, which is lovely that Adam Bourne and his team actually wrote back to Tracy and said, yes, we'll set up a donation page for you. What I love about what they're doing is they talk about being the impossible ones. They make it possible. They want revolutions. They want people to do things differently. And they don't just stop at money. That's not what's going to disable them. They'll just find the people that continue to say yes, and that's what they kind of continue to do. So it's amazing that from a pencil you can do a huge amount. What I love is that these facts, absolutely incredible. What they're also doing is they're developing education innovation pilots where they're actually using the internet to actually educate kids around the world by using tablets and the internet. It's absolutely amazing. And some of the programs you can watch on YouTube of what they're trying to do in very remote areas around the world. I mentioned that it was the kind of the 30 mantra, or the mantra of the 30 things that kind of I looked at, I saw on LinkedIn. These are a few of them which I absolutely love. And this one here, number 20, you can't fake authenticity. And again, with your business, don't try and fake it, because people will see right through it, because it goes back to that happiness thing, doesn't it? It's based on trust. And the thing is that if you're not trustworthy, and again, happiness is found in celebrating others. Do the small things that make others feel big. It's absolutely wonderful. Buy the book, or even just download the 30 mantras from LinkedIn. They're quite staggering that a lad of 23 years old came up with 30 mantras that could really change people's lives. It's quite amazing. I love this quote, and it's one that drives him on. Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive, and it's true. Think about all the great people, the great philanthropists out there, the great people in society that help within the communities that we live in. And it's those people that do the greatest good. I love this from Branson. I think if Branson put that on my book, you kind of know that you've done some good, huh? Amazing. Okay, so let's look at this whole thing about not-for-profit. And one of the things that Adam Braun really is one of his big bugbears is this label called not-for-profit. Because everyone kind of thinks that if you're a not-for-profit organisation, it's all about kind of doing stuff and you don't make any money. It's rubbish. You have to make money. If you don't make money, you won't survive in business. You won't be able to pay your bills. So a lot of people kind of think, okay, so I've got a pursuit that's worth chasing, so I'm going to do a not-for-profit. What I love about Adam Braun is he said, actually, no, let's create companies that are for purpose. They're a reason for being in business. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to make a difference in some way. The thing is that when we all start a business, we kind of think, right, it's going to be like this, and I'm going to revolutionise and change the world. It's not about that. You have to think small or think big, and then think, well, okay, how do I evolve my business in some way that I can continue to make good? So again, now, Tracy mentioned circles earlier. We're back to circles. Now, think about this. Think about the purpose for your business, but also at the same time, think about profit. How do I make money out of what I'm doing? Because I need to. Now, the great thing is that Adam Braun, and he said the clever bit here is the bit where they intersect. It's about being profitable in terms of its purpose. So what I've done is said, well, okay, let's join those two circles together, because I kind of don't like them being separate, because I like them having circles together. So how can you create the most positive impact on as many lives as you possibly can? Now, I've taken the books that I've read over the last year or two, and I've kind of generated a few questions, and obviously used some of Adam Braun's learning, and said, well, okay, ask yourself, how are you creating value? Value isn't money, because money is a byproduct of a good business. So what are we doing to create value for our customers? Think about this. What good are you really doing in terms of therapy, in terms of counselling, in terms of doing good? What is it you're actually doing? So where is the human need in what you're doing? How do you position that? What's the language you use? And I'll talk about that in a minute. The channels that we use. Do we use the internet? Do we use the telephone? Do we use presentations? What is it that's really valuable about your business? Heather mentioned it this morning, it's about you, isn't it? If you're a sole trader, it is about this thing that stands here. It's you. You are the greatest advocate in your business. Hopefully you'll get testimonials where people will talk about your business. And again, how will you tell your story? How do you tell that story? It's bloody hard, don't get me wrong. Telling a really good story is hard, but I'll give you some tips in a minute. And again, think about the whole purpose. How will I make this financially viable? How can I make a wage from this? Adam Braun uses this thing about success and significance. How do I know my business is successful? How is it significant in some way? So those are some questions you can ask yourself, which will help you. And also, where do you find your inspiration from? I think so many of us sometimes we hide away in our businesses and we kind of lack inspiration at times. I'm going to play you a little piece from a film I'd like you to watch at some point. The film is called Baraka. Do watch it. It's quite shocking in some ways, but it reminds us how amazing the human race in the world is. And sometimes when you need a bit of inspiration to realise how big the world is and how much we can change the world, just watch the film if you could. It is available on Netflix and other things. Love this quote by Martin Luther King: "A man who does not have something for which he's willing to die is not fit to live." I didn't say that, he did. And sometimes we have to have that burning passion, that purpose. What am I trying to achieve? To think it's lovely. And again, if we think about telling stories, why is Adam Braun's story so why does it mean so much? It's because it's a fantastic story, isn't it? And the thing is, when we think about stories, we like to tell big stories. We like the big stories, the fables, you know, all of the legend stories. And it is sometimes about how you tell your story and having a common goal and a common good. Sometimes stories need heroes. We can be the heroes in our stories. And I'm not saying we're all going to be Superman and Superwoman tomorrow, but think about it in your business, what you're trying to achieve. And also think about the villains. Villains can be this thing that we call profit. The fact that the world has just escalated into this world of need and greed. For me, that is a huge, great villain. And also, we like to be part of a story that tells compelling and engaging, and sometimes if they're more socially real, they become better in terms of telling that story. And when you look at Adam Braun and you listen to what he's achieved in the last couple of years, it's amazing. So again, when we're writing stories about our businesses, these are some of the points. How well are you telling a story? And I know this of businesses. This is one thing that I work a lot with businesses on, is storytelling. What are you fighting and wanting to achieve? Who are the heroes? Where are the heroes? The people are the heroes. The children in Adam's stories are the heroes, but also the teachers. The fact that he's taken local communities and taught them to teach children, to build schools. But again, what battles are they fighting? Obviously his is around education, isn't it? The fact that there isn't enough education through the common purpose of a pencil. Also, what's coming next? Tell people your journey, your history, what you want to achieve. And also, how will you know when you're winning in terms of a story? And in terms of trying to find your inspiration, how many people know of TED? Yeah? I urge you, if you haven't, go to TED.com. If you want to be inspired by some of the greatest people that are walking and living on the planet, go to TED. There's a guy called Sir Ken Robinson, a big hero of mine. Amazing in education what he's trying to do. He's trying to revolutionise our thinking about education. Do you know who's got the greatest education system in the world?
Finland.
China. Why? Because China has the best recall in terms of teaching, but also teaching the teachers to get better. In the West, we don't do that. Teachers stand up in front of class, they deliver a lesson, and that's it. They don't learn. Whilst in China, they're continually monitored because they want to get better at what they're doing, because their nation is progressing. So go to TED. If you can, watch Sir Ken Robinson, please do. Great quote, I love this. A bit of fragrance always clings to the hand that gives roses. Again, think of your business in terms of trying to do good. Sometimes it is just a tiny little thing that you can do that can make a massive difference to somebody's life. I mean, I'm very lucky that I go and talk to over 1,000 school kids every year as part of Big Idea as well, so it used to be called Dynamo. I'm very lucky that I go and talk to them about being an entrepreneur and having my own business. But what I've realised with a lot of the kids, because I asked them what one word do they use to describe themselves. Do you know the word they use? Freak. Different. It shocked me. And I asked the kids why. I said, I don't fit in. We've got kids of 12, 13 and 14 and 15 years old thinking they don't fit into society. So I say to them, so why do you think you're a freak? Well, I like heavy metal and this, that and the other. So I say to the rest of the class, what do you like? So they don't like heavy metal, yeah. And you realise that actually they're not freaks, they're just different. They like to do things different because they're individuals. So as soon as they start understanding they're all very similar, it actually helps them too. So again, can you do things to go back into society, the schools and colleges and stuff? In terms of reading, obviously I'm going to say read The Promise of a Pencil. The last chapter in this book is amazing. I couldn't stop crying. It's only about 4 or 5 pages long. So I'd say read this. Arianna Huffington, I'm a huge fan of her. She's an awesome lady. If you want to read a book that's amazing, Thrive is. The Education of Little Trees is kind of a bit unknown. It's about a family who were Cherokee Indians growing up. And it's this whole thing about the way it used to be, that we work in balance and in harmony with nature and society. But it's a wonderful, wonderful book. I doubt whether you'll have a dry eye from kind of moment 1 to the end. But again, let's not forget to laugh, to share the joy of learning, to share the joy of discovering, because that's what the kids are doing. The reason why they laugh 300 times a day is because they think it's funny, it's fun. Why is it at adults that we've stopped learning? Now I'm just going to end on this last thing, which is the mantra 30. Make your life a story worth telling. So if you get to the end of your life and you kind of think, what was the story that I would like people to remember, think of that too. And it may well be that you just enabled somebody to have an education because you gave them a pencil. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.
I'd just like to say while you're there, Sid, you did mention that Adam had been in touch. We were in communication with everybody that was featured in Sid's talk, and we asked their permission to use their material. We didn't just take it from their website. And we've made friends with everybody, so Elements for Life, we were already customers, sorry, but we didn't know you. I didn't know you then. Triodos Bank, the marketing manager, loves our website. Positive News, they provided the papers for us today. Ruby's in the Rubble, the lovely Jenny at Ruby's used to be a trader in the stock exchange, just so you know her backstory. Pencils of Promise, they've heard a lot about Adam, and they've set up a donation page, which Denise will tell you about later on. And T-Box, I've just got to do a special thank you to the guys at T-Box Company. They were going to be here today, actually. Omar and Phil were going to be here. They're graduating from university today. They set up the T-Box Company as a project at university, and it was so successful that they decided to carry on with it. And the guys, they're graduating today, so just give them big congratulations.
Which university?
Liverpool John Moores.
Yeah, you should be very good at that.
Yeah. So,
any questions?
Any questions for Sue?
So you mentioned your big ideas thing, and
Yes.
I know you've spoken to this about before. For big letters where it's getting on that path of how do you get onto that philanthropy route. Is the big ideas, could that be the first step in the chain? If so, how do you sort of get involved?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, it's through the Welsh Government and it's run in various areas around Wales, but also you can do things like the Princess Trust. You can also go to local schools and say, can I come and do a chat? I think for me, the big gap in education is that we give kids textbooks and we're almost like battery processing them through this thing. Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. He's right. The thing is that we have to teach our kids to imagine, to be creative. And I think that's what we're stopping doing. So however you get into these kids, however you get into that path, whether it's through the Princess Trust or the Big Ideas Wales, just try and do it.
But I think in terms of philanthropy as well, there's a number of different ways you can do it. I mean, Peter's involved in a charity. I know, Heather, you volunteer for a number of Young Enterprise, Business Wales.
I'm a mentor at Young Enterprise as well.
I do Princess Trust and Business Wales myself. And various of you will do other things, but like the T-Box Company, they set up a foundation, or you could just give a percentage to a particular charity. So there's lots of different ways to get into it. But if you're interested, the best thing is to find somebody who does it and ask them how they got into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I
so
can
the idea
I
of
can
do it is
the
there,
link.
but it's how do you
just get an
start it?
introduction. So if you're interested in Young Enterprise, Princess Trust, Business Wales, Big Ideas Wales, any charity.
Sometimes you just need to have the idea.
Yeah.
Because I was on a course in London, had to, again, a bit like these lads have had to come up with this for a project. I had to have a project, went down with one idea, it didn't work out because of the criteria, and then just Book at Bedtime just came to me. I was talking to a friend and she said, well, what do you love? I said, I love books. And the thought of not having books as a child, I just thought was horrendous. And then with that came the idea of women's refuges. And I know that they don't have a great deal, and that's where Book at Bedtime came from. So I think sometimes it's just having the idea and then sort of just sort of taking it. But no, it's brilliant. Do it.
I mean, one of the big bugbears that I've got is that we put kind of old people in homes, don't we? So many of those old people would be desperate, want to be talked to, or even read to. So could a couple of hours a week, a month, that we could go and kind of do that.
Wouldn't it be great if they could go into schools?
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually approached a nursing home back at my house, and my daughter actually asked me she wanted to read to them because we told her that there was this. I think it came from a TED Talks that a nursing home, they did a test study. Half of them were able to speak to young children and have them read to or read to them, and the other half of the nursing home didn't. And the half that were involved with the children thrived and became happier, lived that bit longer. So my daughter was aware of that. She wanted to speak to the nursing home behind her house. But that meant the mentality of the nursing home was that wasn't possible. There's too many loopholes to jump through. And so it's almost like there's a block there anyway, so it's how
but then
we
we
get
could do it
around
online. It just takes somebody to think of it cleverly, like even a phone line service where people can phone up and talk. I mean, how hard it must be to get to the age of 80 or 90 and be at home and be lonely and not to be able to talk to anyone. You want to talk to a little person. You think these old people have got so much knowledge and wisdom. These little people want that wisdom and that knowledge. I mean, people say that young people don't create businesses. What age was Bill Gates? He was 20 when he started Microsoft. Steve Jobs, 21. What's the guy Zuckerberg? Was 18 years old he started Facebook. It's not true. Youth brings that creativity, but we kind of stifle it. And I just think join those bits of society together so that it's an idea for someone's business.
There's a project in America that marries children with animal shelters.
That's lovely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's about time, Helen.
That's it,
How long have we been
here? But they go in and they read to the animals. I've got one of those pictures. He's reading to a cat.
Oh, people
I kind of be reading to a big
change a cat.
So it's just like, so the cat gets socialisation while it's in the shelf, or the animal gets socialisation. The child gets company, and the child reads as well.
The amazing thing is,
That's what I've read that before.
the thing that amazes me is that all the issues that we face as a society, as a race, have been faced before. Go back to Plato and Aristotle. They've written about these things. The thing is, so everything we need is out there in print. So why do we keep trying to learn it? It's already there. We know how to be the best human beings on the planet, but we keep getting it wrong. That's what makes it nuts. When you talk to the little people know the answers, but we ignore them until they get to old people. By the time they get to old people, they've stopped laughing.
We stop listening to them.
Listen to the little guys. Of course, absolutely. I mean, that's why I do so much work with kids. I just think they're absolutely amazing, because everything's new. And it's like they're willing to get things wrong. When you're an adult, you know, I better not go into business because I might fail. Yeah, go fail. Because you'll be better at what you do the next time and stuff. So, okay.